Welcome to Walks in Time, a podcast designed to let you experience life in someone else's shoes. Today we meet Mary, a woman in her mid-20s trying to make ends meet during the Great Depression years. While you walk, put yourself in Mary's shoes. You wake at dawn in your small weatherboard house in Liverpool, on the outskirts of Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. You squint at the first rays of sunlight filtering through your thin curtains. As you step out of bed onto the creaky wooden floorboards, you pull on your simple cotton dress. Its texture is rough against your skin, a constant reminder it's seen better days. You put on your plain leather shoes. They're well used, but you take good care of them. You can't even think of how you'd go about getting new ones at the moment. Like many of the homes in and around Liverpool, your home is modest, with a corrugated iron roof, a front veranda, and a simple garden out back. Faded wallpaper, a remnant of more prosperous times, covers your walls. The faint scent of flowers from your garden permeates the air. They're still growing and flourishing, paying no attention to how the fortunes of the people around them have changed. You're grateful to have a roof over your head. Your brother, who returned to Sydney from war service, immediately put his hand to learning skills to settle back into civilian life. But now he sleeps under newspapers at the Sydney Domain, along with many other returned servicemen. You long to share the meagre roof over your own head with him, but his pride won't let him take your charity. Here in Sydney, life had settled into a good rhythm following the war. Everyone around you seemed to be getting on with things, reuniting with family members, setting up homes and getting incomes from steady jobs such as mining coal or working with wool or wheat, all of which were in high demand in overseas markets. Everything seemed to change in the late 1920s. Other countries no longer seemed to want as much Australian coal, wool or wheat, and so many people you know lost jobs and livelihoods. Then, in October 1929, the federal government changed, and just days after the federal election, the US stock market crashed. You don't know all the ins and outs, but you do know that the roaring 20s, when life seemed so prosperous, are well and truly over now. You head to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for yourself and John, your husband, and your 2-year-old Patricia. The kitchen is small and rustic, with wooden cupboards and a table that shows years of use. The wood-burning stove always has a kettle and an old kerosene tin full of water on top. You light the fire in the stove, carefully adding kindling and wood until the flames catch, then close the door quickly. The smell of burning wood fills the room, adding a warm coziness to the morning, which you'll know you'll not appreciate so much in the heat of the day. Once the water in the kettle boils, you make tea using the tea leaves from yesterday. You're learning ways to stretch and save. Your bread is a bit stale, but it won't matter once it's toasted. You have jam you made from foraging berries at the park in summer. It's a welcome treat for your family on their morning toast. John works as a labourer at the docks, unloading cargo from ships. The work is gruelling and inconsistent, with employment often hanging by a thread. He's fortunate to have work so far. Many don't. John is tired and cranky in the mornings and when he returns from work. You do your best to keep him buoyant, going hungry yourself at times so that he can have more food, as you know he needs the energy even more than you. But you don't take this lightly. Keeping your breadwinner fed is a survival tactic for both you and Patricia. Although they don't talk about it much, you know some of the women around you are not so fortunate as you, with desperate and unemployed husbands who treat them poorly. Although it's unthinkable, some even show signs of being beaten. Others have lost their husbands. A number have jumped to their deaths off the newly opened Sydney Harbour Bridge. Still other women lost their husbands in the war and are eking out an existence on their own. You do what you can to support other women around you. It seems it's hard enough for everyone to keep their families housed, fed and clothed at the moment. So far, John has avoided the dole queues. These have now become so long, they can no longer manage them at the local Liverpool police station. So they moved them to Liverpool Town Hall. You've heard about the mind-numbingly long waits in the queues, listening for your name to be called so that you can push your way through the crowd and claim your ticket, worth 5 shillings of bread, meat and other essentials. You know that John needing to join this queue could be a reality any day. You're trying to keep a brave face and keep your small family going. You set about your work for the morning, washing clothes in a copper. This is a large metal boiler made of copper built into a brick structure. You light the fire underneath to heat the water, add some washing soda, and then use a stick to push and probe the clothes around and around in the boiling water. Once you've washed them, you pull out the clothes with your stick and rinse them in cold water. After this, you hang them on a simple washing line of rope strung between a post and a tree. You use handcrafted wooden pegs to secure the clothes. The pegs are rough and splintery, but they do the job. For lunch, you make a simple soup from potatoes and any other vegetables you've managed to scavenge or trade for. It's thin, but it warms your stomach. You have bread to dip into the soup, which you've learned to bake yourself to save precious pennies. The smell of the soup is comforting in its own way. You hope that John is able to get something that will sustain him for the day. In the afternoon, you patch up John's work trousers and darn his socks. You're also working on a dress for Patricia, which you're making from fabric scraps. Thankfully, she's growing, despite the scarcity of food. So making clothing from scraps is your best bet to keep her clothed. You can't sew for long, as you know you need to head out to pick up some meat for dinner. You put on your cloche hat and put Patricia into her wicker pram to walk to the market. Patricia enjoys the outing, and her smiles and giggles light up the eyes of those you meet. You buy a neck of mutton, which you prepare with soup vegetables, a handful of barley, and lots of broth to make it go further. While the stew cooks slowly on your stove, you get back to your sewing. You can't always have meat. Not only can you not afford to buy it, but it can be impractical for you to come by. You're grateful for John's rabbit hunting expeditions and the crabs and flathead that he and your brother managed to pick up in the Georges River some weekends. Sometimes you have too much for your family and it won't keep. But you know your generosity when sharing these with your neighbours is always returned when they have a surplus of vegetables to harvest. As John arrives home, you finish cooking and serve up dinner in stoneware bowls. John has brought with him a copy of the evening news. He thumbs through the large, unwieldy pages on the dinner table, eager to hear news of what's going on in the world and to keep an eye on job advertisements just in case. After cleaning up, your day's chores are over, and Patricia is now in bed. so you have a few quiet moments to sew and listen to the wireless with John. There's swing music and always a lot of talk about the cricket, particularly a young man named Don who seems to have an ever-increasing highest score and a bright future ahead of him. These things seem to lift John's spirits and take both of your minds off your present struggles. You finish your day grateful for a roof over your head, a reasonably full stomach, and that John was able to work today. Life during the Great Depression is teaching you many skills, and you hold hope that things will one day be easier. But for now you've resolved to take one day at a time, keeping your family clothed and fed, sharing what you can with those around you, and delighting in the smiles and giggles of Patricia, who doesn't even seem to notice how few belongings she has. Thanks for joining me today for this episode of Walks in Time. I hope you found it interesting to be in Mary's shoes. Please join me again soon to experience life in someone else's shoes. Bye for now.